Damar Hamlin, the Bills defensive back last night, goes down. I'm sure many of you were watching it while it happened. Those that weren't watching at the time, I'm sure you have seen the video and you've been following this story like all of us have over the past 12, 13, 14 hours. And it was a tough scene. Hamlin gets hit. He gets up. He wobbles a little bit, and then he falls straight back. Was not moving on the field. I've just kind of come accustomed to the idea of when somebody's out like that, you immediately think concussion, Greg. What did you think when you saw the hit and kind of everything that happened shortly thereafter?
Yeah, I mean, look, when it immediately happened, you were thinking some sort of concussion, possibly, neck related, something along those lines. But very quickly, I think everyone, and once you saw sort of the reaction of the players on the field, You knew that this was an extremely serious situation. This was something different. And, just by the reaction of the football players, this was something different than a tough injury or something like that. This was someone's life was in the balance on a football field. Unfortunately, it's not the first time this has happened. It's been a while. In 1971, there was a Lions player who passed away on the field during a game. There was another Lions player who needed CPR. I think in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Unfortunately, these things happen. Once you sort of heard about what happened, about how he got up and then fell down, I don't know about you, Nick, but I had immediate thoughts of Hank Gathers, the Loyola Marymount player who collapsed and died on a college basketball court, one of the biggest stars in college basketball at the time. Reggie Lewis, of course, with the Celtics, collapsed during a Celtics practice. And, unfortunately, these things happen in sports, and the game becomes very much secondary. I think it's basically uncharted territory for a lot of people, given that, it's been a long time since it happened in an NFL game. I think that the NFL was trying to do its best last night. I know they're going to get criticized. Everybody loves to criticize everything, and everyone is the greatest armchair quarterback in history. Given hindsight and other things. But I thought the NFL, that, basically what happens really is they defer to the on-field officials who interact with the head coaches. And, from what I understand from some of the people, involved in the game, that, basically the Bengals looked at what the Bills were going through and looked at Sean McDermott and just like, we can't continue. Whatever you guys want to do, like, let's go back to the locker room, assess what's the entire situation. And I think it was pretty quickly apparent to everyone that this game was not going to continue. They just, look, there's no playbook for this. And so no one's going to be perfect. No one's going to handle a situation like this perfect. And I thought at the end of the day, the bottom line is, kudos to the emergency personnel on staff and the NFL's protocols for that. Their trauma, they have extensive testing with, on-field trauma centers, how they deal with these things. I think, those things probably saved Damar Hamlin's life last night on the football field. I think that at the end of the day, I thought it was handled about as well as you could. And, the other thing that I know about this situation is the NFL will continue. And, now we just need to see how that happens.
Yeah, we'll get into how the NFL moves forward here and what some teams have done today. And where we're taping this, we should say, we're taping this at about 10 o'clock my time, 1 o'clock Eastern. So we don't know what's going to happen the remainder of the day. We're talking about Damar Hamlin himself and his condition. He's in critical condition right now as we speak. And of course, if the NFL comes out with anything regarding any games or whatever, we will not be privy to that information. So I just want to kind of put that disclaimer in this. A couple things I would say. Number one, yes, on the first responders and the ability to get to Hamlin as quickly as they did might end up saving this young man's life. He's 24 years old. And if this had happened anywhere else, I don't think he survives, within the next 20 minutes. He, by all accounts, was coding. I mean, they restored his heartbeat on the field. And so just logistically, if that happens to anybody that, are not anywhere close to any kind of emergency personnel and first responders who can give the person the medical treatment that they desperately need within those, seconds to minute, it usually does not end well. So that's no doubt about that. I do think the NFL could have done a little bit better of a job, or a better job getting the message out there as soon as possible. I thought, 71 minutes, I think it was, until calling the game was long. I think once you see the reaction of the players, and the NFL is fully aware of what's going on, trust me, they were fully aware that this young man coded. They were fully aware that CPR was being administered. And once you get that word, I think it's at that point where you make the necessary phone call to the PA and say, all right, we're going to stop this game right now. We can't continue this game, no matter, because to me, and I tweeted this last night, you can't leave it up to the coaches. You can't leave it up to the players. In this instance, Sean McDermott did what was right for the team and what was humane. And so did Zach Taylor. And I tip my cap to both of those guys, understanding the moment, saying, yeah, we can't do this. But this is Roger Goodell's call. That is what is in the CBA. This is Goodell's call. And yes, he has to make it with the PA. But anybody watching this, look, 20 minutes in, 30 minutes in, I get. 71 minutes later does seem like it was a little prolonged to me. And as soon as you see Stephon Diggs crying and Josh Allen crying and Tre'Davious White so emotional, and you are no doubt getting reports from the field if you're the NFL, right? Donna Ponte, who's always there, she was there last night. You are fully aware of what's going on the field. This is not like Roger Goodell was trying to figure out the condition of Damar Hamlin. He knew CPR was being administered. He knew that this young man, his heart stopped. At that moment, you've got to say, okay, here's plan A. Plan A is we're not continuing this game. And I did think the NFL dragged their feet. I would also say the NFL did not do themselves any favors by having the phone call, the conference call last night, because it certainly seemed like there was some damage control being had. There's questioning about the 5-minute warm-up that was told to the teams. Joe Buck spoke with the New York Post this morning, and Buck said, hey, listen, we got that from John Parry, and John Parry was in direct communication with the league office. And the league comes out last night and says, we didn't say anything about a 5-minute warm-up. So there's only a couple of options here. Joe Buck went rogue, which is not happening. Trust me when I tell you, as a media member, Joe Buck intentionally said as less as he could last night, because it's not his role to give you information and guess what's going on. He intentionally gave you just what he could give you in the moment. And so I don't think Joe Buck is going rogue and saying 5-minute warm-up for the guys. John Parry going rogue. Doesn't seem to me like John Parry would go rogue on national television. Somebody had to give that information to Parry. Now, who did he speak to in the league office? All of that stuff, that'll have to get figured out. But it certainly seems like the perception right now is that the NFL did some damage control last night, saying we didn't mention any 5-minute warm-up. It came from the league office, because I don't think anybody on that field is making that decision in that moment. I don't think anybody is clear-headed enough in that moment to make that decision. So that 5-minute warm-up came from somewhere. And that is also just a terrible, terrible decision. Like, there seemed like there was no room for humanity last night. It seemed like there were a lot of people rushing to decisions and trying to figure things out. And at that moment, I just think everybody needed to sit back and say, okay, first and foremost, we have a player who just lost his heartbeat on the field. And
Nick, hang on. I'm gonna interject here. Like, I just disagree. I mean, there is no precedent for this. Look, we have had players backboarded off of games. Ryan Shazier barely ever walked again. There are players who haven't walked again, who have been taken off on stretchers, with their careers in balance, and they have resumed play. There was a, there are protocols in place, which is basically like, I'm sure they treated this like it was a spinal injury, where it's like, all right, the hospital leaves the field. This is what we do. There's a 5-minute warn up. Then they realize, all right, this is different. This has been 50 years since this happened on a football field. Like, I just don't see the point in, at the end of the day, they did what they were supposed to do. And how it happened, I don't really think it's important, in my opinion. You're free to disagree. I just don't see the point of it. At the end of the day, the play didn't resume. They cleared the field, and now we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, the point of it is that the NFL has this reputation, and I think justifiably deserved, of not caring about the players as much as they could or should. You can go
just like every other league. I mean, it's just like every other business. Business is, it's big business. Big business. Amazon doesn't care about the people in their factories. Stuffing boxes. Like, I mean, it is what it is at a certain point. And like, I know it's the NFL, and we love to talk about it. It's not a government body. It's a private body that can do whatever they want, and the NFLPA has a say in it. They have a union for these players to protect them, and if they don't do a good enough job, that's on them. Like that, if they wanted more of a say in things like that, they should have held out for more in the CBA. It is the way it is the way that it is, and I just don't understand. I know they're an easy target, but I just don't understand the need for people to always, like, we understand they're the big guy. It's big business. They're the bad guy, but at the end of the day, play didn't resume. The Bills left town. They took care of their teammate, and, all is well. So.
Yeah, I would say Amazon's not on national television. And I would say that, again, I would not compare this to any other injury that's happened on the field, unless you're telling me that the person's heart stopped. And Damar Hamlin, literally, according to reports and what others have said, Damar Hamlin died on the field last night. And so I would separate that from Ryan Shazier. I would separate it from any spinal injury. The man, his heartbeat stopped, and his teammates and other players witnessed the man's heartbeat done. They witnessed the CPR given. This was a different kind of urgency. Everybody has said it. Those that have called games, those that have been around these kinds of, situations, this was much different. And I just think once you see that, and once the NFL knows that somebody's heart stopped on the field, it's not a hard decision. I'm sorry. It's not a hard decision. I understand it's big business, and I understand all these other things. But when you hear that a human being's heart has stopped and that they're literally trying to revive this guy in front of players, at that point, you've got to say, as a human being, this can't go on. And so I just thought, 71 minutes was long, but it is what it is. We'll agree to disagree. Let's talk about moving forward now, Greg. So several teams canceled media today, including the Patriots. David Cancer, who is a well-known agent throughout the NFL world, tweeted out that, can the NFL postpone play for 2 or 3 weeks? And then he followed that up quickly and said, well, if you can't do it for 2 or 3 weeks, can we postpone this for at least a week? Before we get into the specifics with the Bills and Patriots, because that to me is an entirely different conversation. Just the league as a whole. No, you know what? Let's start with the Bills and Patriots and the Bills right now, and then we'll go to the bigger picture. Greg, I don't know about you, but I just cannot see the Buffalo Bills playing a football game, I don't know, within the next few days, week. I don't know how you can go through what they went through and then rev up their bodies and minds to get back onto the football field to play a game.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know that, we were going to sort of start there. So I'm sort of speaking on the fly right now. Look, I will say the NFL is going to move forward, and it ain't taking a 2 or 3 week break. I can tell you that much. It's the way these things happen. And that it would be different if we were talking about, the unfortunate that he passed away on the field. Then you're talking, okay. But, I haven't seen the latest reports. I don't know if they've been updated since late last night about how, like, he was intubated and his vitals are better or something along those lines. But, it looks like he's in critical condition, I think, is the last report.
Yes.
Look, and I thought Mike Silver did a good job pointing this out today. The Kansas City Chiefs, I think in 2011, had a player, Javon Belcher, drive into their parking lot after murdering his girlfriend and killed himself in front of Scott Pioli and Romeo Canal, and the Chiefs played the next day.
Yep.
This is, I could see, I don't think, I think the Bills are playing at some point this weekend, especially if Hamlin continues to improve. Could it be pushed to Monday? Yeah, that's a possibility. But I'm sure the NFL world is shaken. That was one of my first thoughts, that I'm sure there are a lot of difficult, conversations going on. But these guys know what they signed up for. I mean, this permeates their sort of bubble, their warrior-like bubble, where they don't think about it, but they know every time they make a hit, their life's in danger. This is the game of football. It happens in hockey as well, and other contact sports. I think that very quickly here, probably by tonight, we will start to hear plans that the NFL has. The NFL is going to happen. I do not see them. Now it gets into, what's the best case scenario, for everybody involved. I think they go on and play this weekend's games. It's possible that the Bills get pushed back to Monday or Tuesday, possibly with what they're dealing with. But again, it's Tuesday right now. Sunday is a ways away. Monday is even further away, and things that this is not even 24 hours afterwards. Everybody's raw. Everybody sort of, how do I term this? Just, I don't want to say overreact, because it's not overreact. I mean, we haven't seen that on a football field, but they're just emotional right now. In 48 hours, things could look a lot different, and. I would expect the NFL by tonight or at the latest tomorrow morning to have a concrete plan going forward. I think the easiest thing is to play this weekend's games, possibly move back the Bills game to Monday, and then see what happens. There's a scenario where you might not need to play Bengals-Bills again. That is, I did a column on it last night. So that is if the Chiefs and the Bengals lose this weekend and the Bills beat the Patriots, the AFC's top 3 seeds are locked in. There's no changing it, even if the Bengals beat the Bills because of certain head-to-head tiebreakers like the Bills over the Chiefs. I think it's play this weekend's games, see what happens, and then it's either you play Bills, Bengals, you sort of delay the playoffs by the week, eat into the Super Bowl bye week, which I am in favor of. They did it after September 11th. They have a lot of practice with, moving things around during the COVID year, where you could say we're going to play, Buffalo, Cincinnati on, like a Thursday, and then you're moving. If the Bills have a bye, you're moving the Bengals wild card game to Tuesday, that sort of thing. That's the type of thing that they did during COVID. So it's not that they don't have any experience doing that. But to me, I would be highly surprised if there is no football this weekend. I would say the only thing that I see them doing is possibly moving the Bills-Patriots game to Monday night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The reaction of the players throughout this week, like you said, obviously it's a very tough situation health-wise for Damar Hamlin right now. And we certainly hope that he recovers and is able to turn this thing around and be relatively healthy for the rest of his life. But I do think a lot depends on what happens here in the next 48 hours. if there's a situation where things are kind of stagnant, or, hopefully, God forbid this doesn't happen, or gets worse in any kind of way, I don't think the league can turn around and ask the Bills to play this week. I think it'll depend. And the Kansas City Chiefs thing is certainly an interesting, comparison and how it was handled at that point and what was done there. I would say that this situation is different from the Chiefs because there wasn't the entire team to witness what happened. And Romeo Crennel was there. I believe Scott Pioli was there. Yep. But really nobody else, right? I don't think there were any players that were there in that moment. So I think you can compartmentalize things differently. If you lose somebody in your life and you've got to go to work in the next couple of days, I think, dependent on the situation, you can do that. If you were there to witness it, that takes a completely different emotional and mental toll on you. And if you are the Bills and you're Tre'Davious White and others that were obviously just shook to the core by what they were witnessing last night, I think that does a different kind of job on you, so to speak, than hearing that somebody took their life in the parking lot without actually seeing it. I don't know if there were Chiefs players that witnessed that. I don't know if guys would be able to play the next day that were there to witness that. So it is a lot of newfound territory here. Unfortunately, it's something that we never want to see and have to talk about and go through. But unless Damar Hamlin turns for the better here within the next 24 to 48 hours, I have no idea what the hell the NFL is going to do. I don't think they can go back to the Bills and say, you're playing on Sunday. Like you said, maybe they kick it to Monday, maybe they kick it to Tuesday. I don't know what they do. But that's going to be interesting because obviously that affects the Patriots and, when the Patriots would play. So it's all, like I said, newfound territory. I just want to mention one more note before we move to the Dolphins and Patriots. There are more good people in this world than bad. And one example of that was the tremendous reaction and response by so many people across this country that found out about Damar Hamlin and the foundation that he had begun to help children in a toy drive. And his goal was to hit $2,500, I think it was. And as of this morning, the last time I checked, it was over $4 million. And people are just rushing to the GoFundMe page, donating money because that's all that they can do right now. That is showing the solidarity and support for this 24-year-old man who, by all accounts, by the way, is a very, very good dude and does a lot of good things. So look, I don't know him personally, but I do think it says an awful lot about people that they would quickly try to do whatever they could. $5, $10, $50. We've seen players, Lawrence Guy, I know, Brian Hoyer, several Patriots have donated money to this GoFundMe page. I think that says a lot about humankind. So sometimes we get wrapped up in Twitter and stuff in our polarizing world. This is just the latest reminder that there are a lot more people that do good than bad. And it was nice. It was a nice silver lining to see last night, people getting together and doing that. So, and also Bills and Bengals fans outside the hospital, having prayer circles for the young man.